much a brown belt, but we'll talk about
Okay. We'll talk about the
it.
trials and tribulations, and we'll any competition against that. I mean, the way that I like to run it is if it goes 30 minutes, it goes 30 minutes. If it goes 2 hours, like Jeremy Skinner, he just goes off, we go 2 hours.
2 hours. Oh God.
All along. Up to you though.
Yeah.
All right, so I just started up the stream. What's good, everybody? I have Mr. Nick Ronan. I think you have a nickname. What do they call you?
Some people call me the accountant.
Okay, yeah, because you have the accountant degree, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I have an accounting job too.
You keep the hustle going, even with the full time.
100%.
How got you into accounting?
Um, I just knew there'd be job opportunities available after college, so that's pretty much the reason why. It's not like I'm like super good with numbers or anything like that. Like I just do like auditing. So like everyone always asks me to do their taxes and stuff. I don't do that, not yet, but that might be in the future sometime. But for now, just like simple auditing.
Respectable enough. Everyone's got to eat. You got to fuel the hustle.
100%.
But before we get started, just want to tell everybody to make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, as all the engagement helps the growth. And Nick will really appreciate it. He'll cry if you don't. Make sure you definitely check out the White to Black Belt podcast. You can check out the other episodes. You can check out rosatistrengthsystems.com. You can get a free training course on improving your strength and conditioning. Nick, what kind of sponsorships you got nowadays?
I have a sponsor, Roll Forever. They've been really good to me. They have a good message that jiu-jitsu is for everyone of all ages, and they really do a good job of giving back to the athletes. So appreciate everything they do.
That's what's up. Is that the only one you got right now?
Yep. And the Maximus dummy.
Oh
That
yeah,
dummy sponsorship, yeah.
it actually looks like a good dummy. You can like heel hook it stuff, right?
Dude, it has like feet, so you can put torque on heel hooks and stuff. I use it to do leg locks and passing, like a decent amount whenever I'm bored or whatever. So it's been helpful for sure.
I love the Instagram videos you were posting with them.
The Maximus instructional.
I'm sure during COVID that is really helpful.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What's the IG handle so people can follow you?
Uh, at Nick Ronan BJJ.
Perfect. Nice and simple. Simple and clean, man.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get started in on the journey, man. Where did all this begin for you, right? So you're currently a black belt under Matt
Yes.
Sarah, the fucking legend.
Absolutely.
Anybody doesn't know, I got a highlight video of Nick competing. It's my like #1 viewed video on my YouTube channel. So go check it out. He's a killer. But how did all this get started for you? What was it like before you did jiu-jitsu? Like what got you even interested?
So I always liked wrestling. I started wrestling while I was in the second grade, pretty much, and I was always drawn to like fighting and UFC, MMA. And so in about eighth grade, actually, is more like sixth grade. I was watching the UFC, and Matt Serra was winning UFC titles. He was knocking out George St. Pierre. He was fighting Matt Hughes. He was the man. And it just so happened that Matt Serra had a school 15 minutes away from me. So me and my buddy were like, dude, we gotta go. Like this is the guy. He's the one destroying everyone. Like this is who we're gonna learn from. And so we made the trip, and I started learning under Matt Serra.
That's dope. I'm sure a lot of people wanted to learn from Matt Serra in those like heydays of it.
Yeah.
What was the wrestling start though? Is there someone like in your family that got you into it, or was it like your own interest?
I think it was one of those things where like I would just try out a bunch of sports. Like I tried out karate, I tried out football, baseball, I tried out wrestling, and I was like, oh, wrestling's pretty fun. So like that was like the one I stuck with the whole time.
Not feeling karate, huh?
No, I did that for about a week.
I think I had like a similar run. I was doing like a Kempo thing, and I remember I tried to grab one of the other people, and they were like, "Oh, you can't grapple," and I was like, "What?" I was like, "That's stupid. Why am I going to let him hit me?" And I just stopped that. Now with wrestling, it sounds like because you're really into like jujitsu now. I don't really see you MMA. When you watched Matt, did you have an interest in doing MMA?
At first I did. Yeah. I would do Muay Thai, I would do boxing, I did all the classes. Um but slowly I started to really like the jiu-jitsu aspect more than anything really. Um And then I just kind of stopped doing the Muay Thai, stopped doing the boxing, and then would just focus on jiu-jitsu. But as a kid, as like a 12-year-old kid, I did everything.
I think that's good for everybody, right? To kind of figure out what they like.
Definitely. You should be well-rounded no matter what.
Yeah, I don't know how to throw your 1-2s. Now, when you got started, obviously you started off as a white belt. What were some of the differences you noticed from wrestling to doing jiu-jitsu?
So the one tough thing with wrestling, so I actually tried to do, so I did jiu-jitsu and then I would go into my high school wrestling season after I would do jiu-jitsu in the summer. And so as people would take me down as a jiu-jitsu guy during a wrestling practice, I would just fall to my back and try to sweep people, but I would like be giving up back points and stuff. So it was like kind of confusing at first, like trying to mix both sports. Um, because sweeping doesn't really work. You're gonna get pinned. So
Very hard to sweep wrestlers.
yeah, oh, it's impossible. It's
So
impossible.
even like,
Then in jiu-jitsu, I would belly down when I would get taken down and get strangled. So it was like trying to figure out the best way to do it. Eventually, what I did was I just cut out jiu-jitsu, and then I only did wrestling in high school. I stopped doing jiu-jitsu freshman year.
were you still training with Matt Serra at that point?
No, I didn't go back to Matt until my sophomore year in college.
Oh, so you actually started and stopped.
Yes.
Fucking quitter, dude.
I didn't have it in me.
But you were really into the wrestling, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that was something that you did for a lot longer time, right?
Yep.
And then
I pretty much wrestled my whole life.
Okay, so before we get, because now we want to start to see some of like the differences in the competition as far as like wrestling and jujitsu goes. So what were some of like the highlight points for you in your wrestling career?
In my wrestling career, well, I was all Catholic State all 4 years, which is like a pretty big accomplishment. And I was a 4-time varsity starter, so that was good. Differences between jiu-jitsu and wrestling competition. Um, Wrestling, you would have to have like 4 or 5 matches in a day, which would be absolutely brutal. And in jiu-jitsu, I don't see that as much. I usually do like super fights, or mostly just super fights, really, or like smaller tournaments. And wrestling, I don't know. There's some aspects of wrestling that are so much harder than jiu-jitsu. It's not even close. Like the cardio is just insane in wrestling, just never ending. The pace, there's no resting in wrestling. In jiu-jitsu, you can kind of like pick your spots, kind of relax for a second, and get your breath, and then go back at them. And wrestling, it's just go 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 go. So, but you can learn a lot from each sport for sure.
Yeah. So now as you fast forward a bit and you start getting more towards where you become more consistent with jujitsu, was that because it was like the end of wrestling, or did you have a desire for jujitsu?
So I always loved jiu-jitsu. Like sometimes even when I would have to cut weight during my wrestling season, I would not wrestle. I would like do jiu-jitsu with my friends because it was just more fun to me than wrestling. But jiu-jitsu didn't pick up again until college, and I became the president of the jiu-jitsu club in New Paltz, where I went to college, and I was a white belt as the president of the club, trying to teach other people that didn't know what they were doing. So it was a guy that had no clue what he was doing, teaching other people that had no clue what they were doing.
You're thriving, man. You're at least trying to make something happen.
Sure, I mean, I was literally like looking at moves on YouTube and like showing them to the class.
You weren't even going to classes?
No, completely informal. I just liked it. I just liked the sport, and it was something that I was like naturally decent at. So,
were you finding success with some of the stuff that you would just learn from YouTube?
100%. Most of it was like Marcelo Garcia stuff that I was like obsessed with.
So, I've been like all in on that today.
Yeah,
Marcelo Garcia. I think that's where you get your bloodthirst from.
Yeah, I just love watching him like sweep bigger people and just crushing people. That's one of the big things that got me into jiu-jitsu in the first place, for sure.
Yeah, I like watching him because he actually like goes after people.
Yeah, you can't breathe with that guy.
No. I'm now backtrack a little bit because I'm very interested to hear how your weight cutting went. Because I'm with wrestling, you have to do it pretty often, right?
Yes. Yeah.
especially as a
You're
younger
really,
kid, man. That's
so
always
the problem is that weight cutting is discouraged in high school. So there's no like formal training by your coaches or nurses on to teach you how to weight cut. It's something you kind of have to figure out by yourself. And that's why you see like drastic consequences all the time with high school and college wrestling because no one teaches you how to do it. And I'll be honest, I didn't do a good job of it either. I would just stop drinking water and I would water load and I would feel really sucked out. But I would be cutting like 10 to 12 pounds every year. And I was a super skinny guy. So it
what
was
was your
definitely
weight class at the time?
so I went 96 pounds my first 2 years. It was absolutely
Holy crap!
tiny.
Double digit.
And I was barely 96 pounds. Like I had to wear like a couple sweatshirts to make like the weight limit for 96 pounds. I was
Because you're
tiny.
that little.
Yeah, I was really small.
C Max, there's hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you know Max.
Yeah.
I know he's definitely gonna watch this, so I wanted to throw that out there.
And then my next 2 years I went 113 and then 132 pounds. So I
You started
finally got huge my senior year
getting
of high
into
school.
mass.
Yeah, just eating. Because the problem was I wasn't eating my first three years of high school because I was just trying to stay at that weight. And then
Mm.
finally, after junior year, I was like, screw this, I'm going to eat.
Did you experience any negative like health consequences because of that?
I don't know. People thought it could possibly stunt my growth. I'm the shortest one in my family. My two other brothers are like 6'4" and 6'3", and I'm like 5'11", so it's possible, but I don't know.
Well, at the time, was there anything, or did you feel like okay, or do you feel like looking back on it, was there any like weaknesses because of that?
Um, I mean, the only negative thing was just how weak I felt during matches, which is something you never want to feel. Um, Especially then when I would go into jujitsu, like I knew what not to do, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, I'm sure that was a learning experience. And then, so
Yeah.
now when you went up in weight, did you still have to do weight cutting at all after that, or was it pretty smooth sailing as far as
It was
get?
smooth sailing after that.
Okay,
But
nice.
but you could I was still like not eating right because after my senior year ended, I got up to like 170 pounds pretty
Oh,
quickly. Yeah,
where'd that come from?
eating.
Not exercising? Were you not wrestling anymore?
um yeah, pretty much. I pretty much did nothing and I just ate.
That's the best bulking plan, to do no
Yeah,
exercise and just eat a lot of food and Taco Bell.
100%.
Okay, so now when you started jujitsu, were you more at like 170?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. That's like where I've stayed my entire career pretty much.
okay. So now after you were doing like that training with the people at New Paltz, what was your white belt experience like? Like, take me through like a brief synopsis of white belt to blue belt. What was going
Okay,
on?
white belt to blue belt. So my first so in I was informally a white belt for a long time. It's probably like 2 years because I was just teaching classes at DuPaul's, not knowing what I was doing. Um and then and it was fun. I loved it. I got a big gathering. People loved the classes. I got to teach people self-defense, saw people gain confidence in themselves. Like it was awesome being a teacher. Even as a white belt. I wouldn't even tell people I was a white belt because no one would come back. But they just saw me, submitting people. So they're like, oh, this guy's probably pretty
The beauty
good.
of Nogi, man.
No one knows. No one knows. Um, and then finally I got to Sarah's. And of course, like I wrestle my whole life. I've now been doing jiu-jitsu for like 2 or 3 years. Like I know what I'm doing somewhat. I've seen a lot of YouTube videos at this point. And I got my blue belt at like 2 months.
Oh,
Uh,
really? Was
yeah.
Matt just like, oh man, Nick, you're a killer?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. Yeah, it was like 2 or 3 months, and then they gave me my blue belt.
When you first went in, because I know there's definitely a lot of people that will come in with that kind of attitude, right? They'll be like, oh, I've been watching YouTube videos and stuff like that. But of course, obviously they suck. In your
Yeah.
case, you're actually good. Was there like an expectation for people to not like you to not be so good, and then you just started killing people?
I mean, back then I was a little cocky because I was coming from a bunch of people that had no clue how to do jiu-jitsu, you know. So then when I got to Sarah's, like, I had the expectation that I was going to be pretty good. I don't know what other people thought, and I was getting crushed. I remember my first day I went with Jason Rao, and I was like super conceited. I was like, dude, he's like, do you know what you're doing? Because I wasn't even supposed to be in the class because it was like a blue belt and up class, and I was like, yeah, of course I know what I'm doing. I ran a club for 3 years. Dude,
Humbled you quick.
I
What was he at the time? What belt was he?
think he was a brown. He was a new black belt, I think. Well, no, I think he was a brown belt actually.
Oh shit!
Yeah, I think he's a brown belt.
Wow, that's nutty. He's a brown belt and you're a white belt still, and now you're a black belt. That just
Yeah.
says a lot about like the dedication for it. So, did you do any competitions as a white belt? Did you do any like beginner tournaments?
I didn't do any competitions as a white belt. No,
Mm,
no. I was too much like informal training. And I didn't spend that much time as a white belt. So
yeah,
not as
you
a white
probably
belt,
would have
but
had
other
fun.
belts.
Probably would have fun just beating people up.
Yeah.
As a blue belt, did you wind up doing any competitions?
I did one Naga, or it might have been a grappling industries, and I took third place in an intermediate division. And it was pretty funny because I got ankle locked actually, which is kind of ironic because I mean I was doing pretty good in the match, and then the kid falls back for an ankle lock, and I was just like horrified. I was like, "What is this guy doing to my leg right now?" And I tapped out because I was like so fearful. And it's funny because now I know that when I do that to people, like that's how they're feeling when they don't know leg locks. They're just like horrified, like someone's like attacking their leg and they don't know which way to roll or what to do. So I had that feeling in one of my first matches.
What were the moves that you were hitting at that level at that
Dude,
point? What
I
were your,
was a wild man. I would like try to flying triangle people. That's like one of my major moves. I just try to flying triangle everyone.
did it work?
No, of course not.
Okay, I thought you were about to be like that one white belt, just like throwing fucking flying triangles at people.
Dude, the first day I walked into the club, I flying triangle like three people in the room, and the president of the club is like, "I don't even want to be president anymore. Do you want to be president?" And I was like, "Yeah,
Oh, I guess it's the new balls.
sure." Yeah, yeah.
I guess it works on noobs, huh?
It works. It works.
So do you feel like you learned anything big going from like that white belt to blue belt? Just to backtrack a bit.
Yeah, 100%. Calming down. Like I was all over the place as a white belt. Like I was just like, there was like not that much technique. I was just like diving and pretty spastic movement. I mean, John called told me that I was pretty spastic when I was a younger belt. So so I know I was pretty spastic. But just really, yeah, really calming down, man. Just seeing your shots and taking them instead of just going forward with reckless abandonment every single time.
It's like taking that conscious decision of what are you actually going to do, like technically.
Yes.
That's probably
Yes.
very
Yes.
important for other white belts
Yeah.
to learn.
And like if something didn't work as a white belt, I would just force it. Like if it didn't work, I would just do it harder. But as we know now, that's never the answer. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, it's really about more so of like where you're putting pieces of your body than it is even like the
100%.
effort of it, which is why it gets so
100%.
addicting too. So now as a blue belt, what were some of like the highlight experiences there?
Um I mean, the best thing about Blue Belt was I just started like creating a game for myself. Like I started getting good at butterfly guard. I started getting good at back takes, and like I started actually like being able to threaten people, which is probably why no one wanted to roll with
Why didn't
me.
people want to roll with you, man?
I don't know. It's dangerous as a blue belt.
Just going after people's necks. Well, so you only did
100%.
one competition though as a blue belt.
Yeah, I did nothing, man. Honestly, one of the big things is I just never felt I was ready for competition, which is not a good mindset. I'll say that right now because you're always ready. You should always be able to test yourself. But for me, I always felt like, nah, I need more. I need more time. I need more time. But I mean, looking back at it, it doesn't even make sense because that's really like that's where you test things out. Like that's where you see what works and what doesn't. Like it's not the practice room where that happens. It's the mats, it's the competition mats. But for me, it was just like, yeah, like I need to get better at this. I need to get better at this. Meanwhile, it's like never ending. Like you're never going to be perfect. So might as well just go at it. But that was my mindset back then. I didn't really want to compete.
You never actually feel ready.
No.
That's something that I definitely know. I'm sure you have found this out, especially later. When you compete too, you get so much better.
Oh yeah.
You
Oh
see
yeah.
so much drastic improvement because
Yeah.
you really get to see what works. Because you're no longer like trying to strangle your buddy. They'll kind of like let you do stuff, and then you guys
Yeah.
crack jokes after. Like, nah, this guy wants to like fuck you up too.
Yeah. Now there's so much clarity that comes with competition. Like it's the proving ground. Like you see what actually works and what doesn't against a resisting opponent. I mean, there's nothing more clear than that. Um, yeah, no, it's a totally different ball game when you compete for sure.
What do you think was one of your most important moments as a blue belt?
Um, hmm, I don't know. Honestly, I was only a blue belt for a year, so
Oh shit, that's
yeah, so
not
not that much
anything.
happened.
That's what happens when you're a savage, huh?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that's a really short time. That's a
yeah. Same thing with purple belt too.
really how long were you a purple belt?
A year.
1 year as a purple belt.
Yeah,
Did you compete at purple belt?
I did. I did.
Okay,
I did.
all right. What are some? Well, firstly, uh, what was it like getting the promotions? So you got your blue belt. Was there
Yeah.
like a what was that experience like?
Um, it's funny. My blue belt, that was one of the happiest moments of my life. Like more so than almost every other belt, because I just didn't want to be a white belt anymore. Yeah, you know, like it's just the best feeling in the world. Like, oh wow, I'm not terrible at jujitsu. Like I actually know like a little bit of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Um, for sure. What was the question? I forgot.
When you have a white belt too, you're just a noob. Like you just like
Yeah, and everyone thinks you have no clue what you're doing. I mean, which obviously there's so many different circumstances that exist with that. So
yeah. There can be some killer white belts. I'm a killer white belt for
you're a
sure.
savage, absolute
Savage.
savage.
Yeah, but people like there's different situations. Like I've been training consistently for 3.5 years, but I've had to switch gyms so many times, and then with like COVID stuff too,
That's
shit
unfortunate to your other
happens.
white belt training partners.
It really sucks for them, man, because I don't hold back on them, and they're and then it's funny because I watched some other like blue belts get promoted, and I was like, I just like fucked you up the other day, well, whatever. So that's always fun to see, but now so you went through blue belt,
Yeah,
seemed like you got your stripes pretty quick.
yeah.
What was a purple belt like?
Um, purple belt was good. For my competitions, I didn't do too many either. But my first like big pro competition happened at purple belt, and it was just this insane opportunity because I was at school, um, at the time, and I was training with Aaron Harris, who was a good friend of mine. We would train all the time, and his coach Mike Wacker loves to get his guys in competition, and he told me that there's this crazy competition for pro jiu-jitsu happening in Nova Scotia. I'm like, bro, you couldn't find a closer event. Like
Where's
Nova
that?
Scotia, 16 hours away in Canada.
What?
so, so I'm
Bruh.
like, uh, let's do it. Like I haven't competed in so long. I mean, like, what the hell? I think it was called like Submission Pro. It was like a pretty well-known like Canadian organization.
Mm.
And yeah.
Very
So
Canadian town name.
yeah, yeah. I think it happened in Halifax. Halifax, Nova
That's a very
Scotia.
Canadian town name as well.
Yeah, and so we drive 16 hours, and we're literally it's just snow nation. There's just white everywhere, freezing cold up there, and we're literally competing in like a little garage after a 16-hour trip. Like it's not like a huge like stage or whatever. Just like, dude, it's like a garage. Nevertheless, I get my super fight and I win. I get an arm drag to the back. I don't finish him. The guy just I just couldn't finish him. Didn't know the arm trap system or anything back then. So that would have helped me. That would have
Oh,
helped me a bunch.
really?
Yeah, yeah, I didn't know that stuff.
That even like really exist?
like the beginning stages. I'm sure like Eddie Cummings was doing it back then. I just didn't know it.
What year was that?
16 or 17.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing how much it's evolved in just 4 years, right?
Oh
But you
yeah.
did, but it's funny how if you look back at like the old ADCC matches, like early 2000s, even late 90s, you'll actually see some of like the trends happening. Like you saw Marcelo doing some arm trapping stuff, but
Dude, BJ Penn would do arm traps in UFC fights
that's
for
sick.
years. For yeah, like early
I don't think
2000s.
anybody was really like paying attention to it.
They should have been.
Yeah. When you were taking people's back before, were you getting finishes? Was there like a particular way you like doing things from the back?
There wasn't that much of a system. There really wasn't. It was just climbing my hand up and trying to lock my hands around him. I
Just
mean, there
trying to get
really wasn't. Yeah, it was very basic.
it.
I might have knew a little of the arm trap system at that point, but not enough to like try it in a match. I felt.
Mm. When
Yeah.
now when you went into that match, so you drove 16 hours to do
Yeah.
one match, right?
Yeah.
And it seemed like you said almost that it was kind of like an important event. What was so important about it?
Oh, well, I mean, it was like my first big competition. That was really important to me. Just getting that out of the way was huge for like my mental state. Like after that, I felt like I could win these matches. Like I can beat these guys. Like this was one of their best guys in Halifax, Nova Scotia. So like if I can beat that guy, I can really beat other people. And so yeah, I got huge confidence from that for sure. And it was cool. It was streamed, and people saw it, and it was a cool event.
Were you getting some
And
props?
I got some props. And I got a hat. I didn't get paid, but I got a hat, so it was all worth
That's
it.
fucking worth it. All that 32
100%.
hours of driving is worth it for that.
That hat's insane. So
Did he get a hat, the loser?
hell no, only the winner
Okay,
got the hat.
good. No participation hats.
No,
You
never.
gotta get this. You gotta get the win hat. And so that's the big part too, right? When you first start getting wins in matches, like against an actual opponent.
Oh yeah.
Tell us about that feeling.
Oh man, it's great. Um, it's so important that you start more like from the bottom to like gain confidence at first, because that's the biggest thing. Like start in like smaller tournaments and start in matches that you can win, and just gain confidence so that you can beat the better people. But just getting your hand raised, I mean, after putting in a ton of work for years, and never competing, and then finally competing and winning, it's huge.
Mm-hmm. I remember when my last tournament gave me a huge confidence boost because I got a couple submissions in like a minute, and I
Yeah.
was just like, "Wait a minute, hold on, I think I'm good at this." And it gives
Yeah.
you like that like step like jujitsu swagger, I like
Oh
to
yeah.
call it.
Oh yeah.
You start going into rooms and you just feel like you're the shit. I feel like that feeling is so important to like
Yes.
manifest.
And then when you go into the practice room the next week, you're feeling more confident, and you start improving. Like you just
When you
start
go
seeing
back to training,
improvements. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
isn't it crazy once you compete and you go back to training how like
Oh, yeah.
little you give a shit?
Yeah.
Like it meaning like it's not like all that stressful anymore.
Dude, I mean, like after I go from like a fight to win stage into training, I'm like, oh wait, this doesn't matter at all. Like I should just be playing my B, C, and D game right now, because what's the point? Like just try to improve. You know.
You know who became a killer from competing?
Oh.
Sue Sanigan.
Hell yeah, he's a savage too.
Yeah, it's been pretty amusing and like fun and interesting watching her progression because like I think it
Yeah.
was just something like earlier in the year she just started getting like really serious and started doing
Mm-hmm.
like private lessons with Jason and then like hired me for her strength and conditioning and stuff and then she like did a competition against like a badass competitor and then I rolled with her after that in training and she fucking heel hooked me and I was like Jesus I was like you actually are like going for me like I remember
Yeah.
when I was first rolling with you, it was like playing with a baby, and
No,
now it's
not
like
anymore. Dude,
no.
a couple 6 months of like really going for it and like training every day and putting in some serious time, like you're gonna see some huge improvements.
It's that intention, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that, right? Because we're at purple belt at this point. Like, what
Yeah.
do you think has been helping you actually progress at jujitsu? Because I think a lot of people especially people that like for whatever reason they don't have like they don't have a Sarah's, right? So they can't, so they don't have like whether it's like the best instruction. I see a lot of like academies and schools. They kind of just like, oh, like here's a move, then let's drill, and then let's go live, right?
Yeah.
But what were some of the things that really helped you actually like felt like you were progressing at jujitsu?
So the first thing I'm going to say is something that I know not a lot of people are going to be able to do, but I would do like 10 practices a week, um, at minimum. Like I would just keep showing up, and I just knew by showing up, like eventually I'm going to see some breakthroughs. Like that was the biggest thing for me, is just consistency. Like showing up even if I don't want to show up, like I'll just be there and learn. That was the biggest thing. And then just focusing. Like I would spend like a month or two on one part of my game, and then go on to another part of my game. And
Mm-hmm.
like I would just focus on very specific things, and that would help me out. Obviously you can't do that as a white or a blue belt, but then when you start getting to like that purple belt and you kind of understanding the full game, now you start hammering in on specific techniques and yeah, specific moves like that. And that definitely helped me a ton. But honestly, like I have insanely good training partners. At this time, as a purple belt, I was going to the city now.
Oh, so you started going to Henzo's?
I started going to Henzo's. Yeah, probably shortly after I took that match in Nova Scotia.
At that time, was there a death squad?
Absolutely,
There was, right?
absolutely.
I know it was like
Yes.
Eddie That was when like Eddie Cummings was really big, right?
It was right at the end. Like it was Eddie Cummings was like just about to leave. Yeah, and Gordon won his first or his second EBI.
Were you training with them at the time, or were you mostly just doing like the regular
I
class?
was training. I was training. I was training with Gordon and Gary. I wasn't like friends with them or anything like that, but they were like just training partners at the time, and they would destroy me every time, and it was horrible. But I would keep showing up.
That's how you get better, right?
Exactly, like that's who I was surrounding myself with: Jason, Gordon, Gary, John, Matt, Sarah. Like if you surround yourself with good people and you stay consistent, I mean, how could you not get better, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it depends. If you really got to just show up. In that
And you have
case,
to be engaged. Like you have to
yes.
actively want to learn. Like there, I have seen people that do surround themselves with good people and do show up, but they're not like 100% in it, and they don't. You don't see them improving as fast as they should be because they're not actively problem solving and asking the right questions and stuff like that.
What now? Besides just showing up and stuff, what were some of the things that you did that you felt like progressed you really fast at that point? As you start getting into like the later purple belt.
Like, um,
Was there certain things that you would do as far as like studying goes?
I was always a student. Like I would always like be on YouTube. Like I still am on YouTube. I was just looking up Russian wrestling 2-on-ones before we did this video chat. Um,
Dedicated to the craft.
100%. So yeah, videos. I would study. I would study the best guys back then. But for me, it wasn't as much studying as it was about just learning, like in person, because I felt like there was just so much knowledge to be learned back then. It was insane, and to then go back and study on YouTube after was just like a lot.
Yeah.
So because like after coming home from a Danaher class, my mind's fried.
Yeah. Because you're probably just like, holy shit, like that one thing he did just blew
Yeah,
your mind, right?
he showed one grip and 15 different ways to use it. It's like, oh my god.
And
And
everybody in the room probably all had that same type of expression, right?
yeah, exactly.
That's mind blowing. Um,
Yeah.
was there anything that you were doing besides that type of training that you would put attention towards to help with things like recovery or performance? Like, was there any workouts involved? Were you paying attention to nutrition in a specific way?
Um, I would always pay attention to nutrition, especially when I get close to matches. Like, I'm not saying nutrition's horrible, when I'm not close to matches, but
You have
it's
the Gary Tonin diet?
not that bad. It's not 5 guys every week, I'll tell you that. But it's not super strict and calculated, which it should be, which is a mistake on my part, definitely in the early days, and something I've corrected. But I would definitely hammer on the nutrition like 6 weeks out. Start eating completely right and drinking water and all that stuff. But I never really did much weightlifting. Everyone always says like my grips are insanely strong, so I was just like, all right, I guess I don't have to weightlift. But just
Well, I think that wrestling probably helped a lot. Did you guys have to do any
yeah.
crazy shit in wrestling?
Um,
Like I see a lot of like the wrestlers that get like the farmer carries climbing up the steps and stuff.
there's
Around.
so much conditioning in wrestling. It's insane. I mean, my practices were like 85% conditioning. I mean, it's unbelievable. I wish I still did that now. I mean, all we do is like grab kettlebells, run up steps, just run, and just push ups, sit ups. It was insane.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu's not like that though. It's a very relaxed room. It's chill.
Much more, and also there's an interesting thing with grip. One of the most like common questions I always get is how to improve grip strength,
Hmm.
like all the strength and conditioning stuff. And it's interesting because it has like a essentially grip. If you're natural, it has well, it actually even if you're taking stuff, but there's a cap off on your grip. Like eventually your grip just gets so strong that it doesn't really get much like stronger. So once you
Really?
build like yeah, so once you build like a foundation of grip strength, you don't really need a lot of more grip strength. A lot of it, what it is too, is like when you're really like, from what I've understood, like if you're grabbing like some sort of like 2-on-1s, especially like gripping like arm drags and stuff, you're not just using your hands and your forearms, but there's like this pulling motion of your shoulder blades, if that sounds kind of like familiar, where you're actually engaging all of your back muscles, and that makes you like 90% stronger in most situations where you're using that pulling strength. If you're like pulling an arm drag, that's not grip, it's your back doing a lot of that work.
Definitely. No, I
But
agree with
also
that.
you'll see it's one of those things that like once you start training, it like, oh, I see this massive difference in grip, and then it like doesn't really improve that much
Mm.
later in time. So if you've wrestled your whole life, you're probably going to be like, oh wow, I have great grip somehow. But if someone like never did that and they just trained jujitsu and then they like did some weights or something, or they did like those type of like conditioning stuff, they would notice a change in their grip.
So it plateaus pretty quickly
Yeah,
after. Hmm.
it plateaus quick. That's why you see a lot of people they'll use like straps and stuff when they work out, because eventually your grip just like bails out, and the other muscles start to be what you want to work out anyway. I also think there's a big importance with like where you grab and the way that you grab, right? Because I see some people, if they
Definitely.
grab like a 2-on-1, they're like maybe like this when they should be like this, and obviously this is going to generate a better
Yes.
grip, right?
Yeah. It's. I mean, it's always about leverage, but I mean, I think it's also super important to start a match out and like show someone your grip and make them feel like they can't break it right away. I think it's good for like just that mental game too. I mean, it's huge. If they really got to struggle to pull that grip away, I mean, that's not how you want to start a match. Right on the
I think
defensive.
especially if, like for those, if someone is like taking it a little bit slower and maybe they don't have that respect for you just yet, and you fucking grab like a tight 2-on-1 and they're like, oh, and they really have to like push and pull it out or something. I'm sure that really like gets them going.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had those type of experiences.
I mean, I just had a match with Jay Z Cavalcante like a couple weeks ago, and when that guy was grabbing me, I was like, "This is a problem."
Oh, yeah, he was a little big.
I was like, "This is a problem."
How did he outweigh you?
Probably. I was like 170. He was probably cutting weight. He was probably like 190. I'm guessing.
Was he shorter?
He's shorter. Yeah.
Okay. Still think you should have won that match, man.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, I love how you got fight of the night though. Really shows the heart.
There you go.
Yeah.
Got something out of it. More than a hat this time. So right.
Yeah, a little bit more credibility. So now, did you wind up doing any other competitions during Purple Belt, or did you get the brown
Yeah.
doing more?
Yeah. I actually did a pretty big one. So the show the art finishers had a absolute tournament, and Jason Rao was supposed to be in it, but he hurt his ankle. One of his training partners like broke his ankle the day before this show the art finishers
What a
tournament.
shitty training partner.
The worst training partner ever, dude. Oh god. And so he asked me if I can replace him, and it was sick. It was like Devontae Johnson was in it, Dan Martinez was in it. So So I did that at purple belt. My first match, I submitted David Porter, who's a good guy. That was like no one ever like heard of me before then. All I did was like grappling industries,
That's the
and
best feeling, right?
you know, people were like, "What the hell just happened?" And then I had a really hard match against Dan Martinez, and then he submitted me in overtime.
But you guys went at it.
We went at it like he was trying to pass my guard. I was trying to elevate him. All I really knew back then was like elevations into leg lock, so that's all I was trying to do. Um, you can't be so one dimensional against a really good grappler like Dan Martinez. So that one didn't work out, but I was going at him like crazy. He was backing up. Um, couldn't elevate him, but it was fun.
That's what's really interesting about jiu-jitsu in that sense, where you can like kind of walk into a competition and there could be two things, right? There could be one guy who nobody knows and he could just fucking slay everybody and nobody knows. And there's also that sense of like, even if you lose, you can still gain a lot of respect.
As long as you put on a show.
Yeah. Did you find that you were getting, after that event, did you gain some respect?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, Dan Martinez is like a black belt, and I just gave him a pretty good fight. So people are like, "Who's that guy?"
And that was just as a purple belt too.
Yeah. And
What,
then
1 day notice?
what's up?
1 day notice?
Yeah, 1 day notice.
Holy shit. What
Yeah,
was that like? What did you get, like a text from him or something?
something like that. Yeah, text, and I was like, all right. No one knows who I am. I have nothing to lose. I mean, why the hell not do it?
I think that's a good attitude to have, man, because I think a lot of people are like kind of afraid to compete because
Yeah,
they're scared that like, oh, like what if I lose or something? But it's literally like, who gives a shit?
no one cares.
I
No
remember,
one cares but you, man.
yeah,
That's it.
my first tournament, I was just like so anxious about it. And right before, well, I was supposed to go on at 6 p.m. and we didn't go on until 9. So my team winded up like leaving. I was like the last match and they like winded up leaving. And then I was just stuck with my friend who doesn't do jujitsu, who was going to like record my match. And he recorded me in like 45 seconds. I just got triangled and I'm like, I lost my breath. I had this adrenaline dump. And I was just like, yo, what just happened? I just waited 3
Delete that
hours.
recording.
I watched it a few times. I was
It
like,
never
okay.
happened.
I was like, that's never gonna happen again. But
Your
I think
friend looks at you and gives you the phone back, like, sorry about that, bro.
I think it was on like Instagram Live too.
Oh, the
So
worst.
tragic, and he was
That's the
just kind of
worst.
like, bro, he just goes like, bro, that sucks.
Hate to be you, bro.
Yeah, but no, he was the real homie. He came back another time, and I went up doing well in another tournament. So go to G. Um, so that's awesome, bro. So you started getting a little bit more like respect. It's funny how you just got like that sudden day notice, took advantage of it. What happened after that? Were you
I
still
mean,
belt
I
or?
felt I felt like I was ready though too. Like, dude, there's some savages like in that tournament. So like I knew I was doing good in the room, which gives you confidence to go out there on the big stage. Like if I was getting crushed in the room, I don't think I would try to fight a bunch of world class black belts. But like I knew I had success in the room. I was doing good as a purple belt. I was like, might as well do it. But shortly after that, at a Ricardo Almeida seminar, I got my brown belt. A couple weeks later. And then the day after I got my brown belt, I got my first big win as a grappler. I won the Rise Invitational, the 155-pound division.
They had a tournament back then,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, it was a local tournament in Long Island. But it's on like a big stage at the space at Westbury. It's like where they have plays and shows and stuff like that. So there was a big crowd and stuff. So that was really cool.
You know, that's actually how I found you guys. I went to the Rise. I think it was in November of last year, October, something like that.
Was that in Chinatown?
No, it was at the Space.
Okay.
Westbury. I don't know if you remember that, but who competed there? I knew a few of the Sarah guys competed. I think like Anthony competed,
Oh yeah. I remember that one.
a
Yep.
few other people. I went
Deagle
there,
got like a 15-second heel hook, right?
yeah, I went there with him originally because he wanted someone to go there and help him warm up.
Gotcha.
Interesting, right? I'm in the downstairs room. I'm next to all these people I follow on Instagram. Gary Tonin walks in dressed as a cowboy, and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on?
It's madness.
And he so Rob was doing like braking mechanics on me, and I
Okay.
was like tapping, and he was like, dude, you need to make sure that this is gonna break your knee because I cannot go out there and not get this. And that's when I learned like the truth of the heel hook and how there is a lot of technicality in the break. Like
Oh yeah.
I think people panic way too often on that.
Dude, it takes a lot to actually get like a break like that.
Yeah.
There's so many like panic taps and people just get scared. They feel a little bit of flexion in their leg and they tap. It's like, dude, there's a lot of fight there, man. Like, oof.
It really is. And you
Yeah.
have to be really on point with your technique as well in order to actually.
Everything's got to be correct for sure, or it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Elbow position, wrist position, foot position, hip position. Like, there's so many different things that go into it,
Mhm.
and they all have to be firing. So
Yeah. And so the Sarah guys like ran it up, like everybody won. And I was just like, I was like blown away. I was like, I gotta go train with them. And I literally
that's
left my
what.
gym. I literally left my gym and I went to go and train there.
That's crazy. Wow. So
Yeah.
that's what did it. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, what I had like a little bit of like a falling out with the last gym because I started training with Rob and they were like giving me a problem. And I was like, I'm just training with one of the coaches. What's the problem? Like, it was just weird. But
What's
when I
up, man?
started,
Come on.
I was just like, yo, I was like, you know what? I want to get better at jujitsu. I was like, fuck it. And that's when like a bunch of people left to and went to Sarah's. And I remember like my first day, they sent the enforcer on me. Jason did. It was Cheryl. Fucked me up. Fucked me up. Took
Dude,
my
that's
back,
amazing.
looked me, and I was just like, wow, that was great.
She don't look like an enforcer.
Not at all. I think that's why she is.
Bro.
She
Oh
was
my
really good.
god.
That's when I fell in love with the place. I was like, all right, sign me up. Let's go. So what was
That's good. That's good that they stuck an enforcer on you. That's a compliment.
Yeah, cool. Because I came in and I was like, I came in with like an attitude of like, I need these people to fuck me up, which means I have to try
Yeah.
hard. Because
Yeah.
I need them to like actually want to fuck me up. Because you know when like if like a newer person comes in, you want to like encourage them and stuff. No, I
Yeah.
wanted to be fucked up. Like I wanted you guys to show me something.
Yeah. We have the same mindset, my man. That's what I was like, I want to get my butt kicked. And like if I didn't get my butt kicked, I'd be like, I'm at the wrong place.
I'm not trying to be
That's
the best in the room, and I knew I had to give it everything I had.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know. That's a bad feeling. That's a bad feeling. You don't want that.
No. Yeah, it's not a good feeling. That's why I was like always like experimenting and trying out new places and like rolling with new people. I think that's why competition in itself is super crucial. What was the Rise event like though when you were competing there? What was the game plan going in? Did you have like prep time this time?
So I was hanging out a lot with Gordon Ryan at the time. So my confidence was very Gordon Ryan-esque. I was just like, I am so much better than everybody else. And whether or not that's true or not, that doesn't matter. That's what I believed, you know? And I was like, I train with better people. I have better technique, better technology, and I'm going to submit everyone. And I just walked in with that attitude and that's what I implemented. Like, there wasn't much of a game plan. It was like, I'm going to submit them at all costs. Like, I'm going to hunt them down and I'm going to submit them.
But did you have a go-to that night? One that you kept hitting
No,
consistently?
I
Or
hit
you hit
like
a
all
bunch of
different
stuff?
moves. I hit like a back take, a Dars, and then a back take and two Darces. Yeah.
I think that's what makes some grapplers like really exciting to watch is when they have that variety.
Dude, it's crazy. I looked at like all my wins the other day, and my submissions are like very evenly spread out. Like I have the same amount of Darces as I have rear naked strangles as I have leg locks. It's pretty crazy.
I mean, just scary.
Yeah. You gotta know how to threat the whole body, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That makes you the most dangerous.
And that also like people won't know your game too.
It's hard to play against someone that's good from dangerous everywhere, you know?
Yeah. So how many matches did you wind up having?
It was just 3.
And that was the first one as a brown belt, correct?
I got my brown belt the day before, yep.
Okay. The day before at the seminar, was like Matt Serra just like pulled up out of a closet or something and just surprised you, or did they give it to you?
No, it was at a Ricardo Almeida seminar, and yeah, Matt Serra was there. So, because everyone always comes for the seminar, so it's like a good time to do belt promotions because it's like 100 people there.
Were
So
you
it's
expecting it?
makes for a cool picture. Absolutely not, dude. I was miserable. I had to make 155 pounds for that tournament. I was sucking weight. I'll show you the picture after. I looked terrible.
Oh, 155?
I had like cotton mouth, bro. I was dying because right after that, I had to go weigh in for the day before weigh-ins. Oh my god, it was a miserable day, but that made it a little better.
Yeah. They just pulled that out. You're probably just like, oh, I'm just hungry.
Yeah, I'm like, just give me the belt and let me go home.
Like, eat this belt.
I I was thinking more about the pasta than the belt.
Yeah, I'm sure it all settled after you won, you ate food, and then you were like, oh shit.
I was like more like, oh wait, I have a big competition tomorrow, and I'm a
Yeah,
brown belt, so puts a little more pressure on you, but still the same thing.
yeah. So then when you won after that, what was there anything else that soon came from that? Like, did that win bring you anything?
Um, yeah, nah. I just kept training at the basement, kind of waiting for my next opportunity, and that's when Kasai happened for me, and that was really random actually because Mike Davila had a fight for Kasai and someone pulled out like the last second. And I was friends with Holes Gracie at the time because I'm training at Hensel's every day. And so Holes Gracie's like talking to John, like, who could we get for a replacement against Mike Davila? And he's like, what about Nick Ronan? Because I've been training hard every day. I can make 155. And so that was my first big match. Like that was a big stage. Like Kasai was a huge event. I mean, Rise is a big event too, but Kasai was definitely a big event, and I got a submission win. So that was
That
a
was a
really
super fight.
yeah yeah
Nice.
that was a great match.
What did you wind up winning with?
It was fun. I like almost leg locked him, almost Darsed him, and then he went for a Kimura and exposed his back in the process, and I took his back and finished him.
Fuck yeah, sounds very Nick Ronan-y.
It sounds like very Nick Ronan, and it was really cool because I had John Danaher in my corner and Gordon Ryan. It was the same
Oh,
night
you
that,
ain't losing.
dude. How could you lose? How could you
You're
lose?
not losing. You're probably feeling cocky. Let's be real.
I was like, not really though, because Marcelo was in his corner.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, dude.
you
I've
thought,
had some legends corner against me.
did that trip you out a little bit?
No, I mean it was a little weird. Like, dude, in the back it was like Gordon, John, and Marcelo, and me and Mike, and it was like that was a pretty good little corner right here.
Yeah. You're just looking at Marcelo, like, oh, I used to study you all the time. And then I
I'm
have
like, I'm
you.
about to beat up your student.
That's a good attitude to have. That's what's up.
You
That's
got to
that.
be confident.
Yeah. So after that, what was the next tournament?
um. Okay, so after that, I actually got knee surgery. Actually,
From the
my
triangle.
what?
Is that from the triangle?
Yeah, my meniscus was torn prior to the Mike Davila match. Like in the match, it was completely torn already. But with the adrenaline and stuff, you kind of just forget about those things. After
Yeah.
the match, I couldn't even walk, but during the match, it was fine. And then I just waited. Like, I was kind of foolish. I kind of waited a couple months, thinking the meniscus would miraculously heal, but I don't think that's how it works. Because there's no blood supply to that area. So eventually, I got surgery, full meniscus repair. So I wouldn't compete again until the summer, where I fought PJ Barch as my comeback fight. I was like 8 weeks after surgery.
How'd
The
it go?
doctor's like, it was okay. I kind of was like not really training that much and just wanted the match. It was just a match I was like dying for forever. Like he's an amazing competitor. It didn't go the way I wanted it to go, but
At the
that's
point, did it hurt?
the meniscus.
Yeah.
No, it just wasn't strong. That's the problem. Like I couldn't elevate people, or yeah, like, I definitely didn't have confidence like going for leg locks because I don't want someone trying to leg lock me. So looking back, like I probably wouldn't have, probably shouldn't have taken that match. But I should have waited a little bit longer. But either way, it was still a fun match.
No
He's a
regrets.
great. So.
No regrets.
No regrets. Fuck, no regrets.
So then I'm sure you started getting back into training consistently after that.
Yeah, exactly.
Hard. Was there any other tournaments as a brown belt?
Yeah,
Was the next one Polaris?
well, I mean, there's a ton of tournaments. I just got my black belt like 6 months ago,
Well, didn't you get
March.
you got the you won the Polaris Invitational and then you got your black belt, right? That was the last tournament that you did as
Correct,
a brown belt?
correct. That was the last thing I did as a brown belt. I went to Europe. It's pretty insane. Um, I just saw a big opportunity in front of me. I'm like, I saw who was in the Polaris Grand Prix. It was like Kanan, Nicky Rod, Nathan Orchard. I was like, dude, this is insane. And they were having a qualifier for it. And I knew they knew who I was because I had a role with Nicky Rod and they posted it on Instagram and it got like a lot of views and stuff and people were pretty hyped about the guy who was having a fun role with Nicky Rod, right? So I messaged them and they wanted me out there. So we did it. I flew to freaking Bristol, United Kingdom, fought through a 32-man absolute
That's what I'm
tournament.
about to say. This tournament is huge, right?
Dude, oh my god. The second guy I fought was like 220. The third guy I fought was like 260. It was ridiculous.
Holy shit.
It was
And how many
ridiculous.
people did you wind up going against?
So they
That
gave
like
me a
5 rounds?
bye. They gave me a bye because someone dropped out. So I had to beat 4 people.
Okay. But a lot of them were bigger.
Everyone was bigger.
Literally everybody. What are some of the differences in your game going against somebody your size versus somebody that's heavier?
I mean, I love playing like just being able to move people around. Um, using like push pulls and stuff like that. And you can do that against smaller people, but against people bigger than you have to kind of move around them. And that's the biggest difference for me. Like you can't really move a 260 pounder. You can't really kazushi that. Like there's no off balance. It's very tough to do stuff like that. So it's more about like making angles and moving around them rather than you moving them. Like I think that's the biggest difference that I
It's a good
feel.
concept to know,
Yeah.
actually. That's worth its weight in gold right there. That's a private lesson right there.
There you go.
Moving around people. Uh, was there any other tournaments before the Polaris and between that and the Kasai?
Yeah, I did a bunch of Kasai's. Uh,
Any notable? If you did a lot, were there any ones that were like very notable to you?
um, Not really. Not really. It was just fun to be on a big stage like that and fight some good competitors. My craziest match as a brown belt was probably against Mateus Lutes,
Mm.
where he was like a multiple time world champ, jacked to the absolute gills. And he just threw me around like a rag doll for about 10 minutes. Dude, it was horrible. And
Sounds
then I got to overtime and I submitted him in overtime and like the crowd went wild and that was definitely one of the funner moments I've done.
It's nice when everyone just starts like going off when
That
you win.
was wild.
Oh man, that's the coolest feeling ever.
Yeah.
I think when the tournament goes. I was a bunch of because I was wearing like I think you might have seen like those like really fresh Sarah rash guards that only like 3 people have. And I
I
was
got
wearing,
one.
you got one, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, those are fresh. I was wearing that, and there was a few people that knew me from Rob's Instagram. So when I was going into the finals, there was like a fucking huge crowd, and they were all just like going off after the match ended. And it was
That's a
like
great feeling.
I was like, oh, this is cool. I was like, there's all these people like watching me. It's sick. So it's a dope feeling. So now then you got your black belt, right? And this was just recently, right?
Yeah, I mean it was pretty insane like the timing of it. So I win the Polaris Grand Prix, submit 3 out of 4 guys. I didn't submit the 260 pounder. I took his back,
How
but
did you wind up winning? Just
I
by
couldn't lock
points?
a
Is that
box.
how it worked?
What's up?
Is it by points or decision?
So the Polaris rules is everything is 1 point. Like every like sweeps, mounts, back takes, everything's 1 point takedowns. But I actually won by a rear naked choke in the finals to win the whole thing. Yeah. So that was really fun. And then so that was like March 6th, and as we know, COVID. So then about March 3 days later, like March 10th, I believe, or 4 days later, I got my black belt. And that was like the last training session before everything just shut down. So it's pretty wild the way that worked out.
Yeah. What's the news on Polaris? Is there anything that's going to happen?
I don't think we can still get into the country. So,
Do
so
they, is the event going on?
no, no. So they did a Grand Prix, but it was all European grapplers.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because
That
no one
wasn't
could
the
get into the
official,
country. The
that
borders
wasn't
are
the
locked.
official competition, right?
No, 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 no. I mean, they're still going to try to do the same people for the Grand Prix, just whenever the borders open again. You know,
Mm. Oh,
that's gonna be a hell of a tournament.
you're going off, right?
I'm going off.
How you feel about the Polaris?
Super excited. I love the rules. I think it's interesting. I like the fact that everything's 1 point. So like you can come back. Like it's okay. Like it, it's it's good. I like it. I think it creates action.
Yeah. What do you think's your favorite rule set so far? If
Um,
there is, I know
I
there's some.
honestly I think every rule set has its faults, man. Like I love the fight to win rule set.
The sub
Um,
only.
I love that sub only, like person going for submission attempts. It's just hard because sometimes crappy submission attempts are get you wins. I don't like that, but for the most part, like I think that rule set is exciting as hell. Um, that's fun. I don't love overtime. Uh, Even though like I got that huge win over Mateus Lutez in overtime, like did I feel like I was the better person? Did I feel like I was the better grappler in that match? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
You know, and I've been on the other side of that too. Like I feel like I was doing good in one of my matches, and then I lose in overtime. And I feel like I still don't feel like I was the worst grappler. So I
Yeah.
feel like it's unfinished business. When you win in overtime, I feel like, or lose in overtime, I feel like it's unfinished business.
Yeah.
Fight to
Well,
win rule set, I think is probably the best right now.
that was the interesting thing, right? Because they didn't have any overtime. I kind of like that too. Because there's no like bullshit. Like you can't like stall and just wait out because you've been drilling overtime rolls for the past six
Yeah,
months.
yeah.
Fuck all that. So now is a brand new black belt. Congrats. How long were you a brown belt now? So that was.
I was a brown belt for a while, and I was a purple belt for a while too. Oh no, no, I
You said
wasn't. I
you
was just a brown
were
belt for.
purple for like a year.
Yeah, yeah. I was a brown belt for a while, like 2.5 years.
That's not a while, Nick. You're an anomaly. That's what's up.
Yeah.
Have you done anything fancy as a black belt yet? I know with like Corona, there hasn't been much opportunity, I'm sure.
I did a submission underground, which was pretty fun. Um, and then I've done a bunch of fight to wins actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's been really fun. They've been having me at their events. So I did like four fights and fight to win in like the last month and a half.
All right. That's kick ass, man. I'm excited to see where it's all gonna go once things like return back to normalcy, whatever that be. Hopefully
I don't know.
I think it's only getting worse. I think people are gonna.
It doesn't seem like it's getting better, man. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I just keep doing jujitsu.
I guess you'll keep training up until then, right?
Just want to keep training,
Sure.
man. Keep improving.
That's what's up, dude. Um, what would you say to people that are going through this journey now? Like maybe they're there's a lot of people out there that they want to like kind of come out of their shell, start competing more. Do you have
Hmm.
any advice for people and that are really trying to like progress more and like take jujitsu more seriously?
Yes, like stop putting so much pressure on yourself, for sure. Um, it's not that big of a deal. Like you're making it so much more of a bigger deal than it really is competition. And just test yourself. Um, just do what you do every day in the gym, and things will work out. Have a good game plan going in. Know the first couple moves you're gonna make, and that should work out for you. I lost you. I'll be done soon. Sorry.
Oh, I think we're back. Yo.
Yo.
I'm sorry, man.
No worries. No worries.
All right, man. It's still going, so.
I think it was going that whole time.
Perfect. Okay, so now that we're back,
Yes.
you were saying about you were mentioning not taking it so seriously on yourself.
Yeah, just competition, man. I mean, just don't take it too seriously. Like you're the one that's going to be overthinking it. You're the one that's going to be thinking it matters so much more than it really does. Like if you win, you lose, your teammates are still going to love you. Your family's still going to love you. It's going to be okay. It's just a proving ground. It's a good way to test out techniques, a good way to test out what works, what doesn't. And no matter what, your life's not going to change that much probably. And it's a good way to really see if your jiu-jitsu is effective. And
yeah. And that's a good way to kind of put it, right? You're testing your technique and your jiu-jitsu, not who you are as a person.
Yes. It's your technique against the other guy's technique.
Yeah.
Or lack of technique.
Yeah. Or you suck and you need to correct yourself. Which, hey, sometimes that's a good thing.
Dude.
You got to figure out what actually works.
Board.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with losing. Maybe you just had a bad day and you figure out what has you perform better. And then that can help somebody else if you share that information with them. So yeah, tons of growth there. But yeah, man, it's getting late. Let's start signing off, man. Thanks a lot for coming on. Appreciate you. Again, guys, make sure if you've made it through this far, awesome. Make sure you like it, comment it, subscribe it. Otherwise, Nick's gonna cry. And we got Roll Forever, Nick's sponsor with the freshness, the Infinity logo. Love it. That's what's up, man. And the Instagram for Nick is at Nick BJJ.
Yep.
Oh, no numbers, right? No X97 or whatever. Okay. Nick Ronan BJJ. Awesome, man. All right. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you.